MeiQ is a pretty standard dungeon crawler. It's the second game in the Makai Ichiban Kan series, which started off with Trillion, God of Destruction. It's kind of odd because the two games play very differently. The story in MeiQ doesn't really stand out for me, but I was able to at least get into it. Part of that due to some fairly decent English voice acting. And fortunately, the game does give players the option to choose between English and Japanese voices, and it can be switched during the game at any time in the options menu. I'm going to give you a little dialogue example so you have a better idea of what the character interaction and story progression will be like.
Monsters are fighting each other?
That werewolf is pretty strong.
Look! Next to the werewolf, there's someone on the ground. If I recall, that's Pamela, was it? Did those monsters get her?
But it looks like the werewolf is trying to protect her.
Then, could the werewolf be?
The werewolf won!
Are you okay?
It's nothing, Gons. I just slipped a little.
You!
So it really was you two! Are you okay? Are you hurt?
I'll heal you now.
Ha! Like I'd ever trust a human.
Wait!
Huh? Was that the cat from before?
It was pretty obvious. What kind of Machina magic was that? Those two didn't seem like Machina mages.
And I'll just show you a small bit of Japanese dialogue as well. The dungeons or towers you'll be exploring in MeiQ have pretty varied layouts. Some will have massive chaotic floors, others will be smaller and more organized. The enemy encounter rate is set just right in my opinion. You're allowed plenty of exploring between each random encounter. The dungeons showcase a lot of the standard features you might be used to in this genre. Things like pitfalls, ice sliding puzzles, and teleporters. One nice thing is that they make transport to levels you've already been to very easy. You can activate a warp gate or elevator on each floor you visit to allow fast travel to that area. During battle, each of the girls will control a guardian machina. These are like giant mechs, which you can customize with different arm and core parts. The different parts will adjust the stats and attacks for each of the guardians. As with most games of this nature, there is an elemental table. Certain elements are weak or strong against others. At any time during combat, you can press start to see the elemental table to know which attacks you should be using on a particular creature. You are also able to switch your mages and guardians to the front of battle to perform other abilities. Just be careful when putting your mages out in front, as they are quite vulnerable to enemy attack. The creatures and mechs during combat are 3D models, unlike many dungeon crawlers which tend to use static 2D sprites. The dungeons themselves look very different from each other, but as you might expect, there isn't a lot of diversity from floor to floor within each dungeon. Some of the time-saving features built into this game are the ability to hold circle button and up to automatically rush through an area. You'll automatically turn when needed until you've hit a fork in the path. This is really nice for long corridors, especially ones that twist and turn. It really saves a lot of time. And during battle, you can press R to repeat the last attack assignment and hold X to fast forward the combat. Also, during conversation, you can press square to skip dialogue. Back in town, you can rest to heal up and save at the inn. Optionally, you can save at any point in the game by creating a suspend save. Now, when I think of a suspend save, I imagine it saves your game, then exits to the title screen until you resume the save. But in MeiQ, you can suspend save without returning to the title screen, allowing you to use it as a save anywhere feature. So if you want to reload back a few steps, just exit to the title screen and reload your suspend save. So I'm not sure if this was really intentional or not, but feel free to exploit it. That being said, dying in this game is not so bad. You'll simply return back to town with full health and no negative effects that I've noticed anyway. In town, we have a few other places you can go. There's a general shop where you can buy supplies, and they will occasionally offer rare, expensive items. Then there's the Machina Guild, where you can receive various quests. These quests usually consist of finding a specific item in a specific tower, either from a monster drop or a chest, then returning with that item to exchange it for something more useful. This basically allows you to grind levels with a bit of purpose, which is kind of nice. Last, we have the Machina Factory. Here you can craft Machina upgrades for your guardians using parts you find from monster drops throughout the game. You can either craft from a recipe that you acquired, or you can experiment and just start mixing materials to see what you get. At the factory, you can also evolve your guardians after you've made it to a certain point in the game. One of the other interesting features of this game is the ability to manipulate the chests of the female characters by pulling on certain parts using the touchscreen. This small feature is essentially what got the game banned in Australia and some other regions. Overall, it's a good dungeon crawler. Not fantastic, but it certainly has enough going for it to put it ahead of some of the others on the Vita. And if you really look at the core mechanic of this game, it really plays a lot like Hyperdimension Neptunia, or more appropriately, Fairy Fencer F. Just replace the empty 3D dungeon environments from those games with the traditional square tile-based maze exploration. Outside of that, we have the same basic things going on in town with fetch quests and similar story progression. I just don't think the story is as strong in this game as it is in games like Fairy Fencer F or Hyperdimension Neptunia. But it's still a decent game, and if you like dungeon crawlers, it's definitely worth checking out. I'd say if you give this game a try, just be sure to play it to the point where you have a full party. That's where the game really starts picking up. Alright guys, that's it for my review of MeiQ. I hope you liked it. Until next time, I will see you later.
This is no laughing matter. They're both suffering right now.
Sorry. Still, everyone falls for a trap at least once. It's part of life. You can't help it.
What? That wall of fire was a trap? Could I have accidentally activated it? I didn't do that, right?
Seriously, who could have set that trap off anyway?
Well, it's not fun for the person who set it if nobody falls for the trap.